with our defenses high. Heads up, America, a land that is prepared can never die.
Hello, and welcome to TM Talks. We're here to talk about the nature of conflict.
And I am M, and this is
T.
And today we're going to talk about why the heck humans do what we do. Now, before we start anything, humans come at the approach of conflict at every other turn, opposed to what other animals and, creatures with a reasonably big brain seem to do when they only fight or cause conflict over simple things like reproductive rights or the ability to have food. So...
Right, and humans add a lot of different forms of conflict to the standard animal fighting over resources, in that we create more resources. So, for example, we have mines, and we have factories, and we have natural resources that we can access that animals can't. And above all, we have money, which is a necessary resource for most people to survive on.
Yeah, basically money makes the world go around at this point,
right.
Especially in a capitalistic society like we have.
Right. So
this nature of conflict, if I might be a pain in the ass and ask further, can you explain exactly what it is?
So conflict is the resolution of differences between people or between beings, and it can be done in a positive or negative way, or in a violent or non-violent way, but it can be done. I was thinking more along the violent route today, but.
Okay, so just to clarify, humans, we like to argue with one another. And why exactly do we do that? Is there any known research on this or anything that shows why we like to argue? Because I feel like it's a more than a necessary need.
Well, it's resolution. So if we come to a disagreement about something, like I have one belief that's fundamental to my being, and you have another one that's antithesis to that.
Like someone who is Christian arguing with someone who's Muslim, they both worship technically the same Abrahamic being who is called themselves God or Allah, but they argue over scriptures.
Right, they're over the details, and those are fundamental to their respective religions, so they can't compromise well. So that's when it comes from nonviolent argument, and sometimes it becomes violent because they can't find another path to resolution.
God, I just want to say people suck.
But there is certain ways to reduce the speed of conflict. Like you can have intelligent conversation, you can have discourse, you can have education, and I
don't know if we can have intelligent conversation. I mean, have you looked at America, home of the free because of the brave? But we have an orange peach as our president.
And Trump is a good example of a demagogue, and that's an exploitation of the nature of conflict. Because demagogues always appeal to the lowest common denominator about humans. They put the lowest basis forms of fear and hatred.
To put that into concept, the lowest demographic. Since a lot of Trump's basis, and I'm not saying this about all of his constituents or all of the people who voted for him, but there is a large number of white, uneducated people who have voted for him, and some of them don't even have high school diplomas. And I think that says a lot, because if you're not educated beyond a 10th grade or even 11th grade level, you can't really grasp some of the same things as someone who is college educated or isn't, because you haven't expanded your mind enough. I will say this, I have met some people who have no college education, and they are the smartest people on this planet and could surpass even a Harvard or even Brown professor, but those people are few and far between, and they are stuck in these roles that they really shouldn't be in.
And that's the problem with democracy, is it's vulnerable to that type of thing, because if you don't enfranchise people, they lose their rights and they lose the citizenship class. So if you allow everyone to vote, which you kind of have to in a democracy, then it leads itself vulnerable to certain exploitations like demagogues.
Yeah, our founding fathers tried to subverse this idea. We have had a true democracy in the past. Right now we're more of an oligarchy, but in the
Be very
past,
public.
you had to be, 1, a man, 2, you had to be white, and 3, you had to be a substantial landowner to have any say in what the government did.
Right.
Which I personally, as a woman, think is fucked up because I'm just as intelligent as a man, and
Right.
there's all sorts of cultural stuff that goes into it, but maybe, like, there should be a system in place, like, you can't vote unless you understand certain things. Like, what if we all had to take voter restriction tests or voter
They
tests?
tried that in the South.
Oh god.
They used it as a way to dissuade people from voting. They had poll taxes, they had tests, they had literacy tests and stuff. Like the problem with that is that it opens another avenue for people to dissuade people from voting.
You know what? Sorry, I just thought of an interesting idea. What if we made every American citizen when they turn 18 have to go through the same process as immigrants have to go through to be able to vote? Or to be able to have a voice, that would be an interesting social experiment. Not that
Public education would have to be dramatically better in order for that to be the case.
Yeah, we'd have to steer away from actual regular. We just have to reinvent our fucking system. Even baby boomers. I was watching this documentary the other week on how baby boomers basically messed up the school system because the largest population after World War II that went into the education system, teachers didn't know how to fucking handle it. They had to switch from being actually teaching kids and helping them figure out their own shit to managing a very large classroom of kids that were 100 plus. And that's pretty, there were classrooms 60 plus kids, and baby boomers, I don't know how you guys survived and got what you got, but their entire generation messed things up and kind of created what we know as a modern school system. And teachers have been getting pushed under the dust for the longest time. And even in modern day America in 2018, we have teachers that can't pay their own they aren't paid enough, and basically they're just glorified babysitters at this point.
Right, and then we're asking them to carry guns and shit.
Yeah, I'm fine if teachers want to have open carry law. One thing I appreciate all my amendments given to me as an American citizen. I just believe in reasonable restrictions. If you have a history of hitting your wife, get a gun.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a history of violent behaviors or calling the cops on your boyfriend crazy bitches do exist and should not have fucking weapons. But I'm just saying, crazy people shouldn't have weapons, and a lot of times they're able to legally obtain them, and it's scary. But the only thing that actually stops a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun, and that's a sad truth, but it is a truth.
That brings us back to the kind of conflict nature, because guns are one way to resolve conflict. You can have a war, and that can resolve things between two different countries.
Whoever got the biggest guns gets to pull out and gets to be bang, bang, I'm winning, this is nettle.
Because the historical precedent is that might does make right. And might tends to be the thing that determines where history goes and who writes history. So it's very important how wars are conducted and won. And the last big one we've had is World War II, of course, but there's been innumerable conflicts between that in the Cold War and after. Just that have been less dramatic.
Yeah, and here's the thing. As being one of the biggest countries on the planet, America, we rank 3rd in the world for population. That's only falling behind China and India, who have people in the billions. We only have, I think last time I checked it was somewhere in
360 million.
360, 375 million. I mean, there are a lot of people in our country. We also happen to be way better educated than the average person in India or inside of China. I mean, in the last 20 years, that might actually be changing, but America, we are one of the greatest countries on the planet.
We're educated in a certain way.
Well, it's better to have a basic education that we do have than none at all.
Yes.
And you see a lot of that actually after World War II. Most people were educated. If you look at Russia and the United States, it was 70% or more of the population in both countries were educated in basic reading and writing and arithmetic.
Yeah, I think literacy right now in the States is about 97%, so
Yeah, which is fucking awesome, but
it's a great improvement.
the problem that we're facing, everybody's getting to a baseline of education and educated, but we're not changing the way we approach education. It's just creating a very weakened society intellectually.
Right.
Like, the last election, Trump versus Clinton, I feel like was insulting to the American public because, you know, you either voted for Trump because you didn't want Clinton or you actually genuinely liked him, which you're totally entitled to your opinion, or you voted for Clinton because you didn't want Trump, but you're still voting for Clinton. You know, I'm not saying that Hillary Clinton is, you know, I'm not hating on her in any way. Like, she's done a lot of good, but she's also done a lot of bad. And I don't hold her accountable for what her husband has done, which Bill Clinton, I think, is the one president who's gotten the most blowjobs publicly known inside of the White House. Hey.
JFK? Really?
Oh, hey, I didn't even think of that. I
Yeah.
just think JFK, I don't really necessarily think of him fucking inside of the White House. I just think he fucked everything around it within a 10 square mile
He
radius.
patrolled the perimeter. Clinton was just in the Oval Office.
Yeah, Clinton's not the OG bad boy. That would be Kennedy. And then, I mean, if we want to get into how much... Wow, how did we go from oligarchs to, demagogues to how much the presidents are getting blown in the Oval Office? See, this is what happens on TM Talks. We talk about everything and nothing's off limits.
True.
Including ourselves.
But I did want to get to World War II. And,
all right.
So that... Hitler's the best example of a demagogue we have in modern history, and that was an example of democracy being exploited in order to further some radical agenda. But that radical agenda wasn't commutable with the rest of the world.
How would you categorize Hitler when he came to power and changed it from a democracy to something else? What did that technically become? What did the demagogue of assholery that is Hitler... What did he create, or what kind of system did he switch to? Was it like
it was fascism, but it was basically corporatist fascism. It started in Italy and under Mussolini in the 1920s, but from then evolved into more of a, I don't want to say right wing because it's more corporatist. It's basically
it's like
just
a dictatorship, but the people have slightly more rights. It's kind of what it vibes.
It was very much dictatorship in every respect. They didn't have rights at all. People had to join the Hitler Youth, for example. People had to join the Nazi Party. They didn't have a choice in the matter any more than they did in the Soviet Union. But the focus wasn't on, like in the Soviets, the focus in the general sense was on the people, quote unquote. And under the Germans, it was basically Krupp ran a lot of things in Germany in the Nazi era. Like the German corporations, the money in Germany was huge, and that was hugely influential in stirring up hate against the French, for example, because the French had come in and undercut a lot of their goods.
You know, as you're saying this, I'm just thinking about how the corporate America is really backing Trump and how kind of scary the parallels are there. Not that I'm saying Trump has any influence on that, but he does talk about how he is a big businessman, and anyone who's read his book, The Art of the Deal, will know that he is good when it comes to manipulating business and business practices.
Yeah, he's good at manipulating people. That's it. He's good at distracting and manipulating. He's just a big distractor from power.
So, would you say, in a sense, and I'm totally going down that road of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, presidents aren't really there to make a change anymore, they're just there to distract?
Right. That's exactly what I was quoting. Thank you.
We're just giant nerds here at TM Talks, and we just want to acknowledge that.
Yeah, he's just there to make us not look at the rich people behind him. And he probably isn't even that rich. He probably doesn't have $10 billion. He probably never has. He just wants to say that because he created a character on The Apprentice, and it's useful for rich people behind him to put him in power in order to benefit themselves, like Russian oligarchs.
Damn. Just damn. We're so getting demonetized by YouTube because of all the swearing, but, well, fuck YouTube on that.
True.
Actually, you know who was nice to see you get fucked over? Alex Jones.
Yeah.
Like, whoo, that guy is crazy.
It's good to watch him fall.
That guy
He's
is
not
crazy.
He's just very evil and like.
Okay, well, I'm sorry. I categorize someone as like batshit insane when you start saying the parents from Sandy Hook are a false flag operation and all of that. Like,
that's horrible.
The Sandy Hook situation. Like anyone who
I live right near there.
Oh my god, just like fucking Christ. The Alex Jones, like, what kind of drugs is he doing? He's crazier than David Icke. And if you don't know who David Icke is, Generation Y, or even Generation Z, oh my god, I don't know why I know this, but he's the guy who came up with the reptilian conspiracy. And he makes a lot of money, or has made a lot of money off of it in the past, and the guy looks absolutely insane. Like, he's the weirdest looking white dude. Like,
and he makes
just
money
is.
off of fake supplements. Like, he's this
Oh
snake
my
oil
God.
salesman talking about reptilians, which I think is pretty hilarious, but
Hey, I mean, I guess you gotta make your money where you can, and I guess prior to YouTube, that's how you did it.
hey, just do it by turning the fucking cross gay. So,
Fucking Christ, though.
just gotta yell really loud. He's the exact archetype of the angry man that hires the Fox News guy had. Basically, he made Bill O'Reilly, but Alex Jones did it better.
Yeah, like, but back on, humans and conflict. When we get into it, everything is a point of conflict for humans. Why is it so hard for us to grasp as a species the simple idea that we have more in common than we have in difference? Like, why does our very uniqueness have to become... Like, why do we have to argue about things? Like, I think we can all agree that pedophiles should hang. Like, and anyone who wants to argue against that, whew.
Right.
Like, I think...
But that's an easy one. Like, there's a lot of things like...
Alright, let's name 5 things each that I think all people can agree upon. Alright, for me, number 1, I think everyone can agree that pedophiles should hang and not be allowed to reproduce. 2, I think that their victims should most definitely be the ones who get to deliver the punishment, no matter how obscene it is. 3, I think that we can all agree that everybody deserves the right to live their life as long as they're abiding by the rules in the society. Okay, you know what? I was getting a little off topic. I just think people have the right to live their life.
True. Do unto others as you wish you have done to yourself.
Oh yeah,
the
law
golden rule
3.
is the only thing that matters. Like, the only universal ethic. And if people will just abide by that, society tends to work better. And yes, society has a lot of contradictions that need to be resolved, but...
So does the U.S. Constitution, and Alexander Hamilton advocated that the shit needs to be defended. He went to his buddy and was like, hey, can you do this thing? And his buddy was like, no, why?
The Founding Fathers also thought the Constitution would last about 50 years.
Yeah, who would have thought that we'd be still arguing about the littlest details, like the right to bear arms? Why is this such a fucking thing? And of course, if you're anywhere in the middle, everybody looks at you like you're a fucking asshole. I just want to note, like, on the gun debates, as someone who believes everyone should know how to operate a gun, because if you know how to operate something, you know how to respect it, you also know how to disarm it.
Right.
But we live in a society that, like, is so I hate guns that we don't know how to respect them anymore. Like,
which society isn't I hate guns, if not America?
no, like, okay, so in most industrial societies, we tend to have, like, if you look at Europe compared to America, they, sorry,
No guns.
just, they don't like guns, but they've also never had a time in history where they've revolted against their predecessor with high-capacity weapons, or any kind of weapon that is actually can do some damage. Because if you look at the French Revolution versus the American Revolution, we had better guns, and we manufactured... Well, I understand ours was earlier, but we had better guns, we had better resources, and, I mean, dramatically... they had less resources when it came to the French Revolution. Like, they were chasing people. They were chasing people around with freaking shovels, for fuck's sake.
Right. Yeah, the French in the beginning had nothing. They eventually became a very strong military power as a peasant's army, but yeah, definitely in the beginning it was...
Yeah, America, we had the resources that every single American owned a gun because, you know what, you're living out on the motherfucking frontier. You know what you have to deal with? Bears. You got to deal with all these evil little critters and other people, so everyone knew how to use a gun. That's why I think guns and American history are so, like, ingrained to one another.
Yeah, it's a frontier spirit.
Yeah, and I mean, most of our country still is that way. Like, if you don't live in a city, you live out in the country, and there is a logical reason. Like, if you take, the little country towns that are right next to our metropolis area.
Yeah.
There's a reason why, after I lived in them, I became more pro-gun, because, you see this giant bear walk through your freaking backyard, and we're only talking 10 miles from our current location.
Mm-hmm.
You see a bear walk through your backyard, you don't want your freaking chihuahua barking at it. Although I have seen a chihuahua scare a bear, but very young bear. But,
okay.
We're talking animals that are potentially dangerous. And I think that that's like how the city mindset and the country mindset are different. Like, you need a gun in the country. Like, if you live in the Midwest, I get why Indiana has such lean laws on guns, because your neighbors are few and far between in most times, and if you live on a farm, God forbid. Also, like, all of Indiana scares me at night because it's nothing but farms. It's terrifying.
Well, that's geographically, most of the country is rural, but population-wise, 80% of the country is in urban areas. So I think that's a lot of why there's this debate, because in the city, you don't really often need a gun. I mean, it's self-defense, sure, but you don't need to hunt a bear in the city.
Yeah, but I think it's the lack of our empathetic knowledge on guns and why we need them in our country that we don't address. And I think it's something that actually Bernie Sanders kind of got, because he was not ranked very well by the NRA. He had like a D rating, which is pretty meh. It's a very
It's
sad
also the
rating.
NRA, though. They're pretty leaning.
Yeah, but here's the thing. He got in his state why guns worked and why they didn't in some places. And I just think that everyone should, I actually think we should have inside our public school system, to better our society, everyone should know how to handle a gun. Like, every single kid that is, not kid, I'd probably say everyone who's 16 and older should be trained on how to utilize a weapon, how to disarm it, how to put it together. I know that's very militaristic and people don't exactly like that idea, but we need to educate people. And a gun is just a hunk of metal that is projectiling something at a high rate of speed. It is not the person behind it, and that's the thing. The gun debate is just, when you rip away the gun, it's just people fighting against one another. And we need to basically take our shit and be like, hey, we need to educate, we need to do better. And as liberals, conservatives, I think we can all agree that if we have a better understanding of how a gun works and how the gun laws and how this plays into our history, there should be an entire course on guns in high school for kids to take and understand it better. Because
we have to live with them anyway. It's not like we can undo Pandora's box with a gun thing.
Yeah, and I will never, ever, as someone who is becoming a gun owner, I will never think that it's not necessary, no matter where I live. Because I understand that a gun is a powerful weapon, and especially as a woman inside of this society, you fucking need it. And if you have a pink sparkly gun, guess what? Someone's not gonna mess with you, or you'll be able to stop your rapists. And oh my god, sorry, this just reminded me of something fucked up. Alright, Moms Against Guns has actually said in the past, I don't know exactly where it is, and if anybody in the comments knows exactly what I'm talking about or the ad, please, contact us via YouTube. They have made a thing where it says, or an advertisement of sorts, that rape only lasts a few minutes. A bullet ends a life. And it's I'd rather end someone's life, I'm sorry, but I'd rather have a woman with a gun shoot somebody who's going to try and rape her or assault her than the assaulter get away. And I think we can all agree at the end of the day, we want to protect our mothers, daughters, and everyone in between.
Right. If someone's going to be a rapist, they shouldn't be in society. One way or another, they should be in prison or dead. So that's an expedient way of doing it.
Yeah, and I think every woman can agree that they would rather shoot the guy who's trying to rape them, or woman, because women on women sexual violence does happen. We'd rather shoot our attacker and end their life than let them live. And I mean, I understand some people are Christians and they don't really want that or want to go down that path, but you know what? I'm sorry.
You can't always turn the other cheek.
Yeah, there are some things where you have to nut up or shut up, and you know what? Shooting a rapist in the face is probably one of the best ways. Or shooting him in the junk.
And that goes back to the paradox of tolerance that I like referencing. And
a tolerant society can't tolerate an intolerant society.
Well, intolerance will inevitably take over a tolerant society without limits. So if you are tolerant of everything, like rapists or pedophiles,
or letting Nazis have open speak, like that one bitch in our area who, her name is Sarah Ferris, I believe. She's a known Nazi who was wearing Nazi propaganda from like World War II at the Province Mall like 3 months ago. It's just a huge thing I followed. And if you go on Turtle Boy's website, I'm sure he has something on that. But it's like, when do we let Nazis have a voice? Because in my opinion,
we don't and we can't, because if voices like the Nazis, which won't tolerate any voice but their own and won't listen to any voice but their own, are allowed to speak, then they'll take over, as they did in Germany. Like, there's a lot of precedents for this. It's not like just Germany either. I mean, it happened a bunch of other places every time there's a demagogue since Athens.
Yeah, and I just want to note that my great-grandpa did not almost die in World War II and have horrible PTSD his entire life. Like, my grandma couldn't even run the fucking vacuum with him in the same room. That bad. He didn't give his psychological health for some motherfucking little bass bitch to come up and say, oh, I'm a Nazi, blah, 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 blah. I'm an intolerant little fucktard who ain't got nothing going on for her other than this idealism that is bullshit. Okay? Nazis, if you see them, you fucking beat them up, you kick their ass, and I am like, no, my family did not give psychological health, or I have several great uncles apparently who gave their life for this country to kill Nazis. Fuck Nazis. They don't deserve any rights. And I don't care if they're an American-born citizen or not. Nazis are Nazis, and they are not Americans. And they want to root for shit that did not win against America. America won World War II. We killed the Nazis. Just saying.
True. Nazis are bad. And,
fuck Nazis. Like,
true.
Fuck them up the ass with, like, a prickly dildo made of thorns.
And they're probably the best recent example of, like, this global conflict that rages between tolerance and intolerance. And they're very intolerant of anyone but themselves. They want to create a white ethno state. They want to eliminate people that aren't them. They want to at least move them away, which means killing them, because we see with every mass movement of people, a ton of people die, like the Armenian genocide. But
yeah, like, just, we can be tolerant. We can all get along. But the thing is, if you're a Nazi, if you're a motherfucking Nazi or a supremacist of any kind, whether you are black, white, or Asian, or Native American, or anything in between, I will not tolerate someone who wants to cause pain and suffering onto myself or anyone that I know and love. And I think that is another reason why I think it's vital for Americans to have guns, because guess what?
How do you fight Nazis with guns?
Yeah, I mean, I know Massachusetts, we kind of have a backup for that because we have such a bad bomb problem. Like, bombs are a thing in the Northeast since we have, like, stricter gun laws, and a lot of people are really into their homegrown issue bombs. Like,
at least Trump exploding meth labs. There's not many of those.
Yeah, no, I think that's Midwest that kind of has that. Like, Midwest and maybe the South. Like, I know some people in the South that do meth, but I think there are harder drugs than that.
Yeah, I'd imagine. I mean, that's fentanyl.
Excuse me. And, but yeah, like, fuck Nazis. Sorry if I'm so hell-bent on that, people. But
True.
I think we can all agree. Punch a Nazi in the face. Do what Rick and his granddaughter did in that one episode where they punched a Nazi. And they punched a guy who was angry to a puppy. Like, how can you not love puppies?
Yeah, it's like when Rick and Summer beat up Satan, only Satan's Hitler.
Yeah,
or
like,
any given Nazi.
Just fuck Nazis. And if there are any Nazis
Satan's
listening...
Richard Spencer.
And if there are any Nazis listening, you're rooting for a team that lost, like, 100 years ago. It's pretty fucking sad. Like, you're pretty fucking pathetic. I'm sorry your mommy didn't love you enough.
Alright, well,
we're hitting our 30-minute mark. So, is there any closing thoughts do you want to talk about, T?
Nazis are bullshit, and they should all die.
Yeah, fuck all the Nazis. And as we were letting you know about all of this, we're going to continue that song that we were playing at the beginning, which is called the Civil Defense March, Heads Up America. You can find it on YouTube. And here we go.
Every woman and every man must be part of the CD plan, must be ready with every eye up to the sky.
Fuck yeah, America.
God bless.
We are the greatest nation on the planet. No one can actually debate that.
Thanks to our immense resources.
Everybody's
Thanks.
business.
Ender is set as an island.
We're awesome. And that's all we need to